Well, yeah, we got 4 minutes left in the broadcast, so
Yeah.
anything else I would bring up right now would unpack a can of worms that we don't have
Right.
time to talk about. Maybe we'll have to do another show on it. But um, in the meantime, for anybody who is interested in going deeper into this topic, it's like anything else. Condemnation before investigation is the height of ignorance. So
Exactly.
it's one thing to hear something and immediately dismiss it, and that's crazy, that's stupid. It's another to actually hear the whole matter, as Paul said, or as Solomon says. You got to hear the whole matter first, right, and
Right.
then decide. And that's what I'm attempting to do right now. Is listen. I've got Zen's book, and if anybody else is interested in hearing the whole argument, where can people get your books? And again, what's the title of the book?
This particular book is the Great Contest, Book 2, The Enmity Between the Seed Lines. The ones that we were talking about with the War in Heaven, that's the Great Contest, Book 1, the War in Heaven. You can contact me at zengarcia2010@gmail.com. My books are found on Lulu, Barnes & Noble, Amazon.com. If you're interested in any of my books and you want me to bundle them together for you at a discount, I also autograph them free of charge. Just contact me at my email address or hit me up on Facebook, Zen Garcia.
Now, have you read, now the other side of it, the flip side of it, uh, Dante Fortson has a book, Seed Line Debunked or something like that. Have you read his book?
I have, and I would have anybody out there that really wants to read and study into this topic to read both his book and my book, and then make up your own mind.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what I'm all about. That's what I'm trying to advocate here. That people do study to show yourself approved. Study the scriptures for yourself. Look at these other texts if you want to. Two arguments that are presented. 119 Ministries also did a video on this, I believe, a while back, that people might want to check out. But you got to hear both sides of the story.
Absolutely.
Dante's book is called The Serpent-seed Debunked. So if you want to check out his book, as Zen said, read that book and read Zen's book, and maybe it'd be kind of cool to, yeah, maybe to see if I get both of you guys on at the same time and have a friendly debate on it. That might be fun.
Sure.
I'm not trying to set you up or anything like that.
No, I've done the research, and I studied everything. I study with, and before I ever come out in stance on the topic. Same thing with the flat Earth. I ask people to study this topic in the same manner that you would the flat Earth, and then after having done the research that I have, then make your decision on whether it's true or not. But it's my opinion that if you open yourself to the possibility, it only makes sense when you interpret it in this way. And I invite anybody to, if they think I'm wrong in conclusion, make video, go chapter by chapter, verse by verse, the way that I do, and tell me where I'm wrong and where I'm interpreting this wrong. Because in my mind, eating an apple in no way could lead to her conceiving children and there being enmity between the seed of the woman and the seed of the serpent. That can only be interpreted as an act of sexual lust and intercourse, which again led to the curses levied against them.
All right. There you go. Hey, Zen, thanks so much for coming on tonight.
My pleasure, brother. Hey, I applaud you for opening yourself to the possibilities of it.
Thank you, and thank you guys for listening to the Revolutionary Radio Project. We'll see you back next week, 11 p.m. Central Standard Time. Good night, everybody.
God bless all. Shalom.
All right, and that concludes the interview that I had with Zen Garcia on March 15th, 2017. Today is March 20th, and I wanted to get this up on YouTube as quickly as I could, and I'll tell you why in a few minutes. Before I do that, though, somebody had sent me a video to check out that was an interview that Josh Peck did with Timothy Alberino, actually almost exactly a year ago. It was recorded on March 13th, 2016, and wow, certainly the beginning of it, there's quite a few things that I would disagree with, especially regarding Flat Earth. But I got to say, about an hour and a half into the interview, they started going down the same path that Zen and I just discussed, the whole idea of the serpent seed issue. And I'm going to play a clip for you from that interview. Now, let me just say, I've had Josh on my show a few times, and I've been on his show before as well. He's somebody that I respect and consider to be a friend. Timothy Alberino, I have never had any interaction with him. However, the few videos of his that I have seen, I really enjoyed. He's done some really good work with Steve Quayle and the Giants, True Legends, really good video. Highly recommend that you check out his work. When it came to his take on what could have happened in the garden, I just gotta say I found it really compelling. So, like what was said in the interview with Zen, we're just putting this out there for your consideration so that you can weigh both sides of the debate and have as much information as possible when doing so. So, here's about a 20-minute clip from the interview that Josh did. The whole interview is almost 3 hours long, so if you want to check that out, I'll put the link in the show notes to the video on Josh Peck's YouTube channel so you can watch the rest of it. All right, so here's the clip.
Now, I think that Cain, when he was banished from the family line, he didn't take a relative of his, a daughter of Adam. He went and engaged and, for lack of a better term, had intercourse with something that was not a part of that family line.
Mm-hmm.
But before Cain ever went away, I think there was something already mysterious, suspicious, let's say, about Cain himself. And I think it's, I think we're given a clue later on in the story that I think mirrors the story of Cain and Abel later on, which is the story of Jacob and Esau.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you look at Jacob, and this is a very long-winded answer, when you look at Jacob and Esau, those were twins for sure, right?
Yeah.
Jacob the usurper holding on to the heel of Esau, right?
Right.
But it wasn't Jacob who was the usurper, it was Esau.
Mm.
Because here you have twins. One of them, just a normal-looking guy. Hey, you know what? I'm a twin, Josh. So
Oh, yeah?
I got a little bit of perspective on this.
Oh, cool.
One of these twins is just a normal-looking guy, Jacob.
Mm-hmm.
But then you got Esau, who's red and hairy.
Yeah, yeah.
So hairy, in fact, that his father, who wasn't an idiot,
Uh-huh.
could be deceived by the skin of a young goat, the fur of a young goat.
Yeah. That's a lot of hair.
Forearm. So Jacob's mother ties the fur of a young goat on Jacob's forearm,
Mm-hmm.
so that Jacob's father would touch it and think it was Esau.
Yeah.
Now, either he was a retard, excuse me for the phrase, or there was something very convincing about the hair of an animal
Mm-hmm.
in relationship to his son Esau. There was something not only convincing, that was in fact the trademark of his son Esau.
Mm-hmm.
Something so unique and different to Esau that his mother, Jacob's mother, thought, if we tie around your forearm this fur, this animal skin, then your father will think that you're your brother.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. They're twins. They're twins.
Mm-hmm.
Jacob and Esau are twins. Who's usurping what here?
Yeah.
See? Jacob was the one who the birthright belonged to, and I'll tell you why. Because he was human.
Wow.
Esau was the usurper. He wasn't fully human. I'm sorry. He wasn't fully human. I think the Bible is telling us, it's hinting to us, this is a red, furry guy
Mm-hmm.
who goes off, by the way, and marries a Nephilim to spite his parents.
Right.
After the incident, he got ticked off after Jacob tricked him out of the birthright. What does he do? He goes off and marries a couple, Rephaim or whatever the tribe was, their Nephilim tribe,
Mm-hmm.
to spite his parents. So, who became great irritations to to Jacob and I'm sorry, I forgot who Jacob's father was. Anyways, Isaac, that's right. So he became very these Nephilim women who Esau married became irritating. They were very irritating to Isaac.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously there's something going on here. And the reason why I bring that up is because Esau was the usurper, not Jacob. Jacob was called the usurper because he was holding on to the heel. But that birthright only belongs to humans,
Wow.
not to hybrids. So here's a question, Josh. If I'm right and Esau was a hybrid, how did that happen?
Yeah. Do you think that was something left over from... Wow, I don't know. What?
There's three options in my mind. Either A, it was something left over in the gene pool.
Uh-huh.
B, twinning, the scenario of twinning, two different fathers.
Uh-huh.
Or C, some kind of an abduction scenario.
Oh, wow.
And that will sound crazy to people, but I don't care.
Mm-hmm.
They're twins, but one of them's a hairy animal, a
Yeah.
hairy red animal. I'm sorry. That's called genetics. I'm an identical twin with my brother. He doesn't look like an ape.
Right.
He's not hairy he's not a red hairy ape. He pretty much looks like me. Why? Because we're twins.
Mm-hmm.
We share many of the same genetic trademarks. That's the nature of a twin.
Mm-hmm.
If you have two twins that are vastly different, it's because there's an extra element in there. There's extra genetic information in one of them. Or there's differing genetic material between the two of them. In other words, one of them has a different father.
Wow.
Now, that could have been the case with Cain and Abel.
Mm-hmm.
Could have been a twinning scenario. I want people, and of course this is very, very controversial, and I'm not saying I subscribe to this 100%. I'm just floating the idea out there.
Yeah.
So with Cain, with what happened with Cain, we go back to the Garden of Eden. We look at what happened with Eve and the serpent.
Mm-hmm.
And I say there's more to that meets the eye.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Because I think that the judgment fits the crime. I think that the sentencing from the Father, from the great judge, had to do with the act that was committed, the crime. And if you look at the sentencing, the judgment against Eve and against the serpent, you'll notice that they're reproductive in nature. Eve will have pain in childbirth, in childbearing, and women in general, the daughters of Eve, because of what happened, are going to have pain when bringing forth offspring into this world. It's going to be a painful thing now. That's a judgment. When women are in labor, screaming and crying and slapping their husbands, that's because of what Eve did in the garden. It's not natural to the human race to have pain and childbirth. It was never intended. It's because of sin, specifically because of the sin that took place in the garden. Now, that's reproductive in nature, that judgment. It's sexual. It's sort of a judgment that's relative to some sort of a sexual crime. It's reproductive in nature. But that's not all. Her seed would have conflict with the seed of the serpent.
Right.
So again, here's a judgment that is relational to offspring, which is reproductive in nature. The judgment is reproductive in nature. It's concerning the act of reproduction and of offspring. Your seed will be in conflict, will have enmity with the seed of the serpent, which is a judgment also on the seed of the serpent. So, obviously, I shouldn't say obviously, I should say apparently, at least possibly, there seems to have been something sexual involved in what took place in the Garden of Eden. Furthermore, and again, that's very controversial.
Mm-hmm.
Furthermore, the response of Adam and Eve after their sin was to do what? To put fig leaves on their noses, right? Put them on their ears or on their eyes or on their hands. No, they covered their sexual organs,
Yeah.
didn't they?
Yeah.
They sewed for themselves girdles
Mm-hmm.
to cover up what? Their reproductive faculties.
Wow.
Why were they doing that? Because in my opinion, it's those members of their bodies that had caused them shame.
Mm-hmm.
So they were covering up that which had caused them shame, that which that had defiled them, not their mouths for eating an apple or whatever.
Right.
Of course, it wasn't an apple. If anything, it was grapes, but I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
So here they are, covering up their reproductive organs with girdles that they sewed together because they were ashamed of something that they had done. And a judgment is coming down that is reproductive in nature. I put two and two together, and I find a plausible explanation in a sexual act that might have taken place in the Garden of Eden. Might have. Let me stress that word, might have.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sold out to the idea, but it's something to consider for people who want to consider all the possibilities when looking at the Garden of Eden. So, if that's true, if that scenario I just laid out was true,
Mm-hmm.
then you could have had what is called twinning, which is a natural phenomenon that happens sometimes where, and I don't mean to be graphic, but if a woman engages in sexual intercourse with two males within a certain period of time, she can give birth to twins
Mm-hmm.
from two different fathers. It happens even today. It's rare, but it happens. If that happened with Cain and Abel, then it would indicate that Cain was of a different father than Abel,
Mm-hmm.
and would then implicate the line of Cain in some sort of a hybrid scenario, even before the fall of the Watchers. Now, when the Watchers fell, who did they interact with immediately? The line of Cain. We know that through
Right.
extra biblical texts. It was Tubal Cain, who was the great smith, and it was the Watchers who brought the technology of smithing and of weapons forging and so forth to the human race. They were very intimately involved with the line of Cain. The line of Cain was definitely predisposed
Mm-hmm.
to receive the teaching of the Watchers. Remember, Enoch was teaching too.
Yeah.
So who was Enoch teaching? Well, the line of Seth. So Enoch was teaching the righteous, the line of Seth, and then, of course, the line of Cain was involved with the Watchers.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a very complicated situation. So I think you had a genetic mess before the Watchers even got into the picture.
Wow.
Then you add the Watchers into the picture, and now you've got genetic chaos.
Yeah, they certainly didn't help.
Yeah, they came and they made a real mess of things. But I think
Yeah.
there was something going on with the line of Cain. Now,
Yeah.
I have a little theory I haven't been able to substantiate.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that the elongated skulls, the Homo capensis,
Mm-hmm.
this genetically different race of human-like entities that we find all over the place, their skulls at least, which are, of course, documented in we know that they're all over the world. The depictions of the Egyptians with the royal lineage having the elongated skulls, and I think that elongated skull race
Mm-hmm.
might be from the line of Cain,
Oh, wow.
and I'm talking pre-Watcher line of Cain. That could have been a genetic trait that was intrinsic, innate in the line of Cain
Mm-hmm.
before the Watchers ever came. That's just a theory of mine. I don't know if it's true. I don't have much proof to substantiate it. But I'll toss it out there for people who are interested in that sort of thing.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting. Have you? Because this is something I've thought about as well, and I've wondered if this scenario is true, why and maybe you thought about it longer than I have, or might have a theory on it. Why the judgment for the serpent in the garden, if there was a sexual thing that happened there, the judgment for the serpent in the garden is different than for the Watchers. The Watchers were, bound in the bottomless pit and everything, but the serpent, the judgment was, I don't have the text right in front of me, but you'll crawl on your belly, all and eat
You'll eat
dust, and
dust.
yeah, all that stuff. What do you make of that?
Well, I have a rather radical view concerning that. I obviously don't believe that it was a snake
Right, same here.
that had legs that was judged and suddenly his legs went away and now he had to slither around.
Same here.
I don't think that makes any sense. It's illogical.
Hmm.
It's irrational. Consider what it means to eat dust. Consider what it means to crawl on your belly. I have another theory that, again, it's just a theory,
Hmm.
that when it talks about the serpent having to crawl on his belly and eat dust, I have a feeling it might be referring to a class of entities that would be bound to have to live under the ground,
Oh, okay.
that they would be constrained to life beneath the surface of the earth, that they would eat dust, they would be beneath the feet of men. And that opens up a whole can of worms.
Well, it's interesting, and that actually makes sense because if the judgment on Eve was for Eve and all the women after that,
That's right.
it would make sense that the judgment on the serpent would be for the serpent
That's
and then
right.
any other of its kind.
That's right. So its
Wow.
kind is the key word. So
Yeah.
what was the serpent? Well, we know the devil was involved
Hmm.
for sure. Satan, because the book of Revelations tells us the dragon, that serpent of old,
Hmm.
right? So we know the dragon was involved. That serpent of old. When it says a serpent of old, of course, it's referencing the serpent.
Hmm.
That's why the serpent, the snake, is a symbol of the devil because of the Garden of Eden, and probably because he probably has some adder-like attributes.
Hmm.
By the way, there's nothing wrong with a snake.
Hmm.
There's nothing intrinsically wrong with a serpent. So we look at a serpent as being unlovely because of the Garden of Eden, right?
Right.
We have a natural aversion to a snake because of the Garden of Eden.
Hmm.
It's sort of ingrained in us because we're children of Adam and Eve. We're the offspring. And it was this situation with the serpent in the garden that caused us to be bound to this terrible condition of sin and death,
Hmm.
which the cross rectifies. So when we think about it in those terms, all right, so the devil is implicated with the serpent, for sure.
Hmm.
That's serpent of old, the devil. But does that mean that the serpent was the devil himself? Or does that mean that the serpent was another entity that was influenced or perhaps even possessed by the devil?
Oh, wow.
I don't know. Was it the devil himself? Or was it an entity influenced or possessed by the devil?
Right.
I don't know. But if it wasn't the devil himself, if it was an entity, let's call it a serpentine entity,
Hmm.
sentient, that was influenced by the devil or inhabited by the devil. Remember, we know that this is not something that is uncommon to the devil. Remember, the devil used Peter, the apostle, to try and divert the plan of the Father for Jesus to go to the cross. When Jesus spoke of his death, Peter basically said, "This can't be," right?
Hmm.
And what did Jesus say to him? He looked at Peter and he addressed the devil
Yeah.
who was working through Peter. So, which is very interesting. It's very telling the way that the devil operates.
Yeah.
That he was using Peter to try and dissuade Christ, which tells us a lot about the devil. that he had some sort of knowledge of what Christ was about to do because he was trying to dissuade him from doing it, that the Son of Man must die, right?
Yep.
And so here's the devil using Peter to tell him, no, 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 you shouldn't do that. You don't have to do that. And Jesus instantly recognizes it as Satan and rebukes him, looking at Peter rebuking the devil. So that in and of itself provides us with context of how it might have been in the Garden of Eden with another entity that wasn't necessarily the devil himself, but an entity perhaps possessed, definitely influenced, at the very least, by the devil. Is it possible that this entity, this serpentine entity, was somehow offspring of the devil? I don't know. Does the possibility exist? I would say it at least exists. Might be remote, but at least exists. It exists. So if we're dealing with an entity that was not the devil himself, but that was an entity either possessed, influenced, or the offspring of the devil, then we might be dealing with a whole class of sentient beings that were constrained to live in the caverns of the earth beneath our feet.
Wow.
Serpentine entities that were pre-Adamic that have to live in the caverns of the earth or have to live beneath our feet and eat dust, in other words, be constrained to crawl on their bellies, which might very well be a metaphor. All of these things might be a metaphor for they're underneath the earth.
Right.
They're in the caverns of the earth. The whole hollow earth situation. It's plausible.
Yeah.
And it certainly would explain a lot of different encounters that people have with these kinds of serpentine entities, especially under the ground.
And there you go. I'll stop it there. Really compelling, at least to me anyway. I think so. This is a subject that, like I said in the interview with Zen, I'm not completely sold on it. In fact, I've been very much against this whole idea for a long time. I thought I had a really slam dunk case against it, especially with Genesis 4:1. But now I got to be honest with you. After the interview with Zen, after looking at this interview, and I've done a fair amount of research since last Wednesday on my own, I'm not quite as confident as I was before in all of this. But there's another individual who is very confident and who is very much against this whole idea, and that person is Dante Fortson. And we mentioned him in the interview that I did with Zen, and he's written a book, The Serpent-seed Debunked. And like Zen said, he said, look, read this book, please. Go get Dante's book and read it first, as a matter of fact, and then get Zen's book and read his book and compare. Solomon said, he that answers the matter before he hears it, it's folly to him. And we've, of course, talked about condemnation before investigation as the height of ignorance. So, there's some really good and very compelling arguments on both sides, but you got to hear both sides before you can make a decision. I'm still weighing the merits of both sides myself. And in the interview that I did with Zen, I was kind of joking. I said, hey, it'd be cool to get you guys together and have a debate about it. And I was sort of joking about it, but then after I finished the interview, I started thinking about it, especially the next day, and I thought, you know what, it would be cool to get these two together and have a debate. So I contacted them individually on Facebook and asked if they would be open to it, and both people agreed. And so I'm real excited to host a debate for the first time, and it'll be between Zen Garcia and Dante Fortson. It'll be called the Battle of the Seed Lines Debate, and it will air this coming Wednesday, March 22nd, 2017, from 11 p.m. to 1 a.m. Central Standard Time here on the Revolutionary Radio Project. Hope you can join us. I'm thinking it's going to be a pretty powerful, information-packed show, so you're not going to want to miss it. See you then. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video presentation. If you did, please subscribe to my YouTube channel, like the video, and share it on your favorite social media sites. There's a lot more to come, so stay tuned, and we'll see you back next time.